brick! Bring out the brick! Bring out the brick! Bring it out!
When Daniel was young, he lived inside Daniel's skin. He knew only Daniel's, but none of them knew him. He tried to explain his story to those in the lounge.
Earlier, Daniel found sand in his boots. He was lying in a tent and he was sandy. At the time, there were people talking about something that Daniel didn't care about. Frustrating, he said. All the sand made Daniel itchy. Daniel closed his eyes and pictured a room with flat blue and orange walls. There was a window with the moon in it. Then Daniel imagined an escaped gorilla walking around in the dark with a glowing key. When Daniel saw the gorilla, he realized he had been asleep. He was still itchy.
Two months ago, Daniel proposed to digital interfaces, but digital interfaces said no. His heart shattered.
At recess, Daniel was it, and he chased the Japanese student. The rain was flooding the ground, so everyone's parents came in cars. A woman with the face of Daniel's mom showed up, but the form of her body was wrong. A giant wave came down on her, and for a moment Daniel loved her because she was Daniel's mother. He lifted them both out of the water. Daniel and everyone else stood on a hill over the water. Gabby was definitely there. Gabby was so allergic to peanuts.
Daniel learned how to hula over the radio. The woman's voice was soft and soothing, and she said,
"Are you ready? Makai?"
Then everyone shouted in response, "Aye!" She said,
First, turn your head to the left. Then, turn your head to the right. Makai?
Aye!
Excellent. Next, the shoulders. First, roll your shoulders back. That's good. Now, roll them forward. Makai?
Aye!
Now, place your hands in front of your chest and wiggle your fingers. Put your right hand out, but keep your left hand right there by your chest. Makai?
Aye!
Then, place your right hand out and bring the left hand right into your chest. Are you smiling? A hula dancer is always smiling. Makai?
Aye!
Daniel saw a long road. Daniel knew he must run. He ran farther and farther and farther around the next one, up the road, tens of miles. Daniel started to feel tired. He wondered if the sun was actually hot, if the cold water was really cold. Daniel thought there was just the sun and the water and the road. The last time bread touched Daniel's lips was at least 90 years ago. Daniel wasn't really 90. Strum, went Daniel's tibia. A little farther, and he would be at the end of the tunnel. At that point, Daniel reckoned that nothing ever was or ever would be. Daniel saw the road, and Daniel saw the road stare back at him. The black pavement radiated what may have been hot or cold air on his smooth skin. There was nothing to stop him, but everything stood in his way at the same time. It's a long process, Daniel thought. Daniel fancied he should stop thinking about thought things and keep running.
Daniel ran into a guy named Dan. Two of Daniel's friends also ran into Dan. These friends were also named Daniel. It was confusing for Daniel to explain that 3 Daniels had ran into Dan. He thought about how to phrase this to people without confusing them.
Daniel lay in his bed. He thought about the word aromatic.
Aromatic!
Later, when Daniel was explaining this word to his friend, he visualized hexagonal rings. Aromatic could be even more than hexagonal rings. Daniel lay in bed in a sea of aromatic pillows. The pillows weren't really aromatic, but Daniel liked the sound of that word. Daniel lived in a used towel. gathering twigs every morning. One day, Daniel found a beetle in his stew. It didn't bother him.
Daniel found a pamphlet in his basement about how he was created. He read it aloud. To build a Daniel.
By Nancy.
The author thought about using the pen name Robert Z. Flea, but decided not to bother. To build a Daniel, you need steady hands and a thirst for adventure. Step 1. Lease an apartment in a location with many empty shacks in order to obtain inspiration for your personal homegrown Daniel. Step 2. Take a nap. You've worked hard so far. You deserve a break. If you feel like crying, your kit includes a shoulder for that. Crying is not a sign of weakness. Rather, it shows you've persevered through the worst of times. After reading Step 2, Daniel still wasn't sure how he was supposed to feel about crying.
Daniel couldn't get Wi-Fi connection in his bedroom. He needed to get online so he could edit the script for a performance piece on Google Docs. He tried to get Wi-Fi in the TV room. Then he moved to the living room. Daniel knew the password for 2 different networks. They were the same password. One was 5G, which Daniel thought was faster because its name contained a number and a letter. Daniel was right.
Daniel thought about cantaloupe tea. If he was going to write a story about cantaloupe tea, he needed a filler character to bring it to him. Daniel imagined Sally for that role. At a party a few weeks ago, Daniel danced with a girl. After the song ended, she said,
Thanks for being my dance partner.
and walked away. Daniel was surprised because they had been grinding hardcore, and she showed her gratitude in a formal manner. Daniel imagined that the girl was Sally, and at the end of the song, she brought in cantaloupe tea. In Daniel's story, Daniel proceeded to bury Sally alive in subtly aromatic sand.
Daniel thought about an orchard once. It was round. You could eat grapes and cheese in this orchard. But Daniel had to move. Daniel thought about an orchard again.
Wow.
Once, not too long ago, the moon had a son named Daniel. Raised by bears, Daniel grew up on the south side of the dunes, eating squid for breakfast and lunching on pickled catfish for dinner. Daniel made his home on that southerly dune, living without wondering as the waves slipped past his sandy cave, until one day Daniel woke up on an especially bright morning, and the wind was blowing. Not in its usual side-to-side, straight ahead, but kind of diagonally upward, almost on the underside of his skin. Daniel felt the need to leave his dune, the squid and the catfish and the sleeping bears, and make his way to the valley of the people. Daniel became a brick builder, not to say he built with bricks, but that he built them. He created the foundations of our modern philosophy. But Daniel, son of the moon, is no longer welcome on the South Dune. The wind pushes him away and the waves whisper,
You're always, always a stranger. And only squid talk.